I froze. The sound rolled off his lips like a secret never meant to be shared, soft yet distinct enough to echo through my spine. A strange hush settled over the grand hallway, as though the chandeliers and portraits had paused to listen too. My hands, still clutching the silver tray, trembled slightly, threatening to betray everything I tried so hard to conceal. He stood at the top of the staircase, a figure of impossible grace and cold perfection. His eyes never wavered, piercing through the air, finding me in a way that was too precise to be coincidence. The walls of the mansion had seen me before, in silence, in shadows. But this was different. He wasn't seeing a servant now, he was seeing me. I lowered my gaze, unsure of the rules anymore. I had always known my place. The polished floors didn't creak under my steps for a reason. The tapestries didn't flutter when I walked past them. I had made myself invisible. That was the only way to survive in a house like these, a one where names held power and silence was protection. But now, something had cracked. He descended, slowly, deliberately. Each step felt like thunder in my chest. I could hear the rush of blood behind my ears, could feel the weight of every second stretch like a thread pulled tight. I didn't dare breathe. "Did you hear me?" His voice was different this time. Not commanding, not harsh. It held a note of something else, tentative, curious, almost uncertain. I nodded, barely. He took the final step and now we stood on the same floor. In proximity, he looked less like the ghostly heir of this estate and more like a boy trying to remember a dream. He tilted his head slightly, as though studying a puzzle whose pieces had just begun to click. "I thought that was you," he murmured, as if speaking only to himself. "From the garden." I blinked, confused. "Garden?" "You were there," he continued, eyes narrowing in thought. "2 nights ago, near the old fountain. I saw you." A chill danced along my spine. I had gone there, yes, but only for a moment. Only when I thought everyone was asleep. The moon had been high, the air still, and I had stood barefoot on the cold stone tiles, just to feel something that was mine, if only for a second. I looked up, just enough to see his expression. He wasn't angry, not accusing, but intrigued. As if something in that memory had stirred something long buried. "I never forget a face," he added softly, stepping a fraction closer. "But I never knew yours." My voice caught in my throat. For years I had worked in this house. For years, I had kept to corridors, stairwells, corners. I had seen his family at dinners, parties, through the half-closed doors. I had cleaned the aftermath of celebrations and arguments alike. But never once had I imagined he'd remember me. He must have seen the confusion written across my face, because a faint smile played at the corners of his mouth. "You looked like you belonged there," he said, more to the memory than to me. "In the moonlight, near the roses. Like something from a story." I wanted to run, to disappear back into the walls, to retreat to the safety of anonymity. But I stood there, heart beating like it had been caged too long. Something shifted in the silence between us. A breeze from the open window stirred a nearby curtain, and for a moment, it felt like the entire house was holding its breath. "Will you tell me your name now?" he asked. No one had asked before. Not like this, not with that note in their voice here, like the answer mattered. I didn't speak, couldn't. Instead, I turned. I walked away, fast but not rushed, every step an effort not to break into a sprint. I could feel his eyes on my back, not demanding, not desperate, but full of wonder. I hated that it stirred something in me, something I had locked away a long time ago. I reached the servants' quarters and collapsed onto the edge of my cot, breathing hard. My chest rose and fell like I'd been running for miles. I touched my lips, as though expecting to find some trace of what had just happened, some mark of that moment where everything changed. The other maids chattered nearby, folding linens and mending buttons. None of them noticed anything different about me. None of them saw that my world had just shifted on its axis. I wrapped my arms around myself and closed my eyes, trying to shut out the memory, to file it away like a dream you wake from too suddenly. But it lingered. His voice, the way he said my name, the look on his face when he realized I was more than just another faceless figure in his mansion. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the cracks in the ceiling. The moonlight slipped through the tiny window, casting long shadows that danced on the walls. I listened for footsteps, expecting him to come searching, but none came. Still, his words echoed. "You looked like you belonged there." What did that mean? What did he see in me? I thought of the garden again, the way the fountain shimmered in the moonlight, the scent of wet earth and faded roses. I had gone there because it felt like the only place where I was real. Now I wondered if, somehow, he had felt it too. Morning came with the clang of pans and shouted orders. I dressed, braided my hair tightly, and resumed my duties. But something had altered. The floors didn't feel quite so cold under my feet. The mirrors didn't reflect just a servant anymore. And as I passed the grand staircase again, I paused just for a second, because somewhere above, I knew he was awake, and wondering, just as I was.